Timisoara, 1869. In those days, the city stood like a flickering candle caught between progress and something far older. The Austrian Empire brought with it steam engines, Baroque architecture, and nuns from the West. But the swamps, those black-veined marshes girdling the city, did not recede so easily. They whispered at night. They crept beneath doors and into dreams. The place where the statue would stand, where Gheorghe Doja's body was torn apart by fire and iron centuries before, was avoided by locals after sunset. It was said that the dead were not fully dead there. But change came with the pale nun. Her name was Sister Maria Abundantia, and she arrived from Munich with cold eyes and a wooden statue packed in straw, cradled like an infant. She came not with fanfare, but with footsteps so soft it seemed she glided through the fog. The statue was of the Virgin Mary, carved from Bavarian wood, baby Jesus in her arms, her eyes wide open as if witnessing something terrible. They placed her where the other statue was, not far from where Doja died. Beneath her feet were stones blackened by soot, though the fires had long been extinguished. Within a week, townsfolk claimed that the statue wept at dusk. A trickle of pitch-black sap ran down her cheeks. Others said they heard lullabies when passing by in the dark. The church dismissed it as fevered superstition. But that winter, little Maria Weiss, my great-grandmother, walked home alone, and the statue turned her gaze. It was a cold evening in December. The fog sat thick and low, pressing against the city's bones. 8-year-old Maria had just finished school. Her mother worked as a washerwoman, and her father, absent as ever, was somewhere between the army and the tavern. She always took the shortcut home. It went through the square and right under the shadow of the wooden Mary. That day something compelled her to stop. Perhaps it was the way the light from the setting sun caught the statue's face, or the silence that had fallen like a bell jar over the world. She stood there, gazing into Mary's eyes. They seemed too wide, too knowing. The world shifted. Then came the pain. Like a hot needle plunged into her chest, piercing through ribs and breath and heart. Her legs gave away, her schoolbooks scattered into the mud. And then, nothing. Maria awoke in silence, enveloped in golden light. At first she thought she had been swallowed by the sun, but then she saw the women. They stood in a circle around her, tall, pale, and dressed in mourning black. The air smelled of myrrh and moss. One of them, closest to the bed, reached forward and touched Maria's face. She smiled gently. Her face was radiant but solemn. Her hands were cool as river stones, and she looked exactly like the wooden statue. "Are you in pain, child?" she asked. "No," whispered Maria. A second woman stepped forward, her grandmother, the one who had died the winter before, coughing blood into white linens. Her eyes were soft now, unburdened by illness. "We were waiting for you, dear," she said, brushing Maria's hair. "Where am I?" "You are between." The door was open, and you almost walked through. The women nodded, their mouths never moved. "Do you want to go home?" they asked all at once, their voices like wind through reeds. Maria blinked. "Yes," she said, "Mama will be sad." The pale lady smiled again. "Then sleep, Maria Weiss, and remember us." Maria awoke to wailing. She opened her eyes and saw her mother collapsed at the foot of her bed, clad in black, face buried in her arms. Around her stood half the neighborhood, dressed in mourning. Candles burned low. The windows had been shrouded in cloth. Her body had been washed. The priest had been summoned for the final rites. Maria sat up. Screams echoed through the room. They said it was a miracle. The church was hesitant at first until it became clear that the story would spread with or without them. The city buzzed with whispers of resurrection. She came back from the dead, some said. An angel saved her, others insisted. No, said old Frau Gerlinde, who sold cabbage in the market. She was taken. I saw it. The statue turned its head to follow her. When doctors examined Maria days later, they found swelling behind her eyes and a slow, steady pulse in the back of her neck. A coma, they said, though such words were foreign to most. Back then, a still body was a dead one. No machines to measure the hum of life. No way to know she was still in there. And she would have been buried that very day. It was Sister Abundancia who stopped them. She must rest one more night, the nun had said. Why? No one asked. No one dared. The pale nun's word carried weight heavier than iron. Maria recovered, but she never forgot. Each time she passed by the statue on her way to school, she would stop. She would look into the eyes of the Virgin, and she would whisper, "Thank you." Others noticed too. One night, a drunk man named Zoltan spat at the base of the statue. He was found the next morning in the swamps, face down in muck, his eyes wide with terror and hands clawed into the mud. No wounds, no blood, just fear. They called it coincidence, but Maria knew. Years passed. Maria grew. She married a good man, bore children, told no one of the golden room, the pale lady, the dead grandmother who brushed her hair. Not until she was an old woman herself, skin like parchment, eyes dim but fierce. That was when she told her granddaughter, my grandmother, who passed it down to me. She told her that the statue was not simply a gift. It was a vessel, a boundary. She brought something with her, she said of the nun. Or perhaps she came to seal something away. My grandmother once asked what she saw in the light. The old Maria paused and said, "Something that watches. It watches from beneath the swamps." In 1989, during the revolution, the square around the statue was filled with protesters. Bullets tore through the air, but something strange happened. One man, blinded by shrapnel, crawled at the base of the statue and saw again the next day. A small girl, no older than Maria had been, fell on the ground after an explosion. Her heart stopped. Then, minutes later, she awoke, whispering, "Mama." History repeats. The statue still stands. No, it's not the original wooden one from 1869. It's a marble one. You can visit it. You can look into those eyes, and if you linger too long, you may feel something stir beneath your ribs. A faint pinprick, like a memory of pain. We do not pray to her, not directly, but we stop, we nod, we whisper thanks. For she is not just the mother of sorrows. She is the watcher between, and some doors, once opened, are never quite shut. This is the story passed down from my great-grandmother Maria, and that is why we never cross the square after dark. Not without leaving a flower at the statue's feet, not without whispering thank you, not without remembering.